Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another Growing with God video. Today we're going to look into the topic of how the kingdom of God could be likened to the birth of a child. So we see in Revelation chapter 12 that the birth of the kingdom of God was likened to the birth of a child. Now, many people may ask, why was this? And another important thing to bring up is that Romans chapter 15 verse 4 tells us that everything that we see in the Bible is there to help us understand the plan of God. Thus, this makes us realize that the only way we can actually understand why a child's birth was used to depict the establishment of something as big as the kingdom of God is by looking at the Bible, understanding the Bible, or more specifically, looking at the birth of another righteous man and the events that surrounded that story. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at how the birth of Jesus Christ symbolized the kingdom of God, as Jesus Christ will be our righteous man in this video. So, one connection we can draw between Jesus Christ and the kingdom of God is, if we read Matthew chapter 2 verses 1 to 9, we learn that King Herod was going after, baby Jesus, which was the new big thing that was coming to Israel at that time. But I bring this up because this exact same thing is actually happening to the kingdom of God in our time, where it is endangered because wicked men are going against it. And this fight against the kingdom of God was discussed in Revelation chapter 12 with a dragon trying to devour this newly born baby of that woman. And this child, by the way, is the kingdom of God. And how do people go against the kingdom of God exactly? Well, they do this by sort of dismissing the impact that its establishment has on our current world, such as, some of the changes that we see: increased freedom, rights for marginalized individuals, represented by the desire of all nations, if we read Haggai chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. So, the establishment of the kingdom of God caused all these things, and it is also what caused the turbulent times in the early 20th century in fulfillment of Matthew chapter 24, verses 5 to 8, due to that huge spiritual reform that took place as a result of the establishment of that kingdom. However, instead of actually recognizing God's hand in the change of today's world, many people just attribute these changes to man or, basic coincidence, completely cutting God out of the equation and never really thinking about him. And it was actually prophesied in the Bible that people like this would emerge in our time who will say that, nothing special has changed or, it's just a coincidence. We see this in 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 3 to 4. These verses read, "Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking in their own lusts, and saying, Where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation." However, another similarity that we can draw between the story of the baby Jesus and the kingdom of God, also related to Herod, was that, the kingdom of God requires nourishment or special conditions for it to grow. When Herod started to chase after baby Jesus, Mary and Joseph were told to go to flee into Egypt, which was the place where Jesus Christ could be protected from Herod. We see this in Matthew chapter 2, verses 12 to 14. And then Revelation chapter 12, verse 14 metaphorically tells us that the kingdom of God will go through this exact same nourishing process. And then that verse tells us, "And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into a place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent." So that nourishing process that was described in the story of baby Jesus and also in the Revelation account is talking about how the way the children of God, through persecution, they would be nourished spiritually in our sinful world. As we see in James chapter 1, verses 2 to 3, that it will happen. He said in these verses, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience." So it's talking about how Christians would be nourished through this temptation, which is why we should count it all joy, as he said. So we are also protected from the forces of this world through the knowledge of God that we have built into us, protected from rising secularity, persecution from others, and so on. Our knowledge will help us deal with that. And then it will help children of God stand for God, which in turn will also nourish them to be more faithful Christians. So it's kind of like a circular pattern that helps grow and grow the faith of Christians, which is why we should trust in God so that we can deal with this internal conflict. As we see in Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 7 to 8, we were told by Jeremiah, "Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. For ye shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat cometh, but her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither cease from yielding fruit. And then this is connected to the kingdom of God because it's through that nourishing process that us Christians will be fit for that kingdom. But anyway, I think this will suffice on answering that question of how the birth of the kingdom of God is likened to the birth of a child. If you have enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also to hit the notification bell down below so you'll know when new Growing with God videos are uploaded to the channel. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.